What's up, guys? Rotozap here, and today we're going to be breaking down the acquisition between MGI, which is Media and Games Invest, and Kingsisle Entertainment, which is the parent company of Wizard101. So, for those of you who saw the deal and aren't really sure what's going on and want it broken down, that's kind of the goal of this video. I'm going to be taking all the jargon, all the numbers, and breaking them down in a way that hopefully makes sense to you guys so that we can really better understand what exactly this acquisition really means. So, the first thing I want to do is talk about what exactly an acquisition is. Like, what does it mean that Kingsisle is being acquired by MGI? So an acquisition essentially just means that MGI is taking control over, in this case, 100%. It's not always 100, but in this case, it will be 100% of everything that Kingsisle legally owns. So anything that Kingsisle could go into court and fight is theirs is being acquired by MGI, which means that, you know, their games, servers, intellectual property, employees, literally everything that Kingsisle has that makes them a company is now belonging to MGI, which sounds kind of scary because it is, when you're talking about 100% acquisition, it is kind of the definition of a sellout. Because, I mean, it is scary because they have control over Kingsisle's employees, they, technically speaking, could come into Kingsisle and just say everyone's fired. You know, they're going to put in new management, they're going to do whatever, they're going to build up their portfolio through the acquisition, and they technically could come in and fire everyone. Are they going to do that? Probably not. That wouldn't really make sense considering the Kingsisle staff has been dedicated and, you know, taking after the game, or taking care of the game for many, many years. God knows only Matt Nettic and probably a few other people could ever understand the code base that is in that game. So it really wouldn't make sense to do that. And we have gotten like slight confirmation from the devs that this seems to be a healthy, mutually beneficial merger and not so much, or acquisition, not merger. So I don't think that anyone's getting laid off, which was kind of my initial worry when I saw that they were being acquired. But nevertheless, I think that, you know, being acquired essentially just means that MGI is kind of the new boss for everyone that was in KI. So if you want to think of things of like a corporate ladder, everyone that was at like the head of Kingsisle is no longer at the top rung. They got an addition put onto their ladder, and now there's new bosses over at MGI who technically can call the shots over what goes on at KI. So the next thing we're going to do is break down all these numbers here and break down the deal itself. What does it mean that they were given $126 million for this, and everything in between? So the base deal that takes into effect in a few days here is $126 million will be given to Kingsisle for all of its assets. So again, this does mean everything will be going to MGI, but in return, Kingsisle will be paid out $126 million. And that's not all. There's actually an additional clause to the deal that may come into play depending on what Kingsisle's earnings are. So this graph is pretty interesting here. So I'm going to break it down. Keep in mind, this is all in terms of millions of euros. So it's not US dollars, and it's in millions. So it's saying from January to September of 2020, which essentially means from first to third quarter of last year, the earnings for MGI were revenue. The revenue of MGI was 92 million euros from that time, and Kingsisle's was 18 million euros. So the difference between revenue and earnings, because they are very different numbers, is revenue is how much money the company brought in general. But this doesn't take into account operating costs, employee salaries, anything like that. So it has nothing to do with profit or anything like that. It's literally just how much money was brought in. So based on these metrics, Kingsisle Entertainment actually takes up a pretty sizable portion of MGI's total revenue. So it does make sense why they were offered so much money for this merger, because again, it would make up a significant factor of MGI's total revenue, and assumingly they would be a lot more profitable with this acquisition. So the other numbers we have down here are the EBITDA, which that's an acronym. I'm not going to explain all of what that means, but really what it means from a realistic standpoint, what you need to know it means is that basically this fancy number here essentially means what the earnings were before taxes and other things are taken into account. So it's not the true profit because it doesn't take taxes into account or COGS or anything else like that. But it does give you a better estimate of what the actual earnings of the company were, because this EBITDA number is going to be what the revenue was minus the operating costs and a bunch of other things. Actually, I think it does include COGS. I may have misspoke there. But what it doesn't include is taxes and a couple other things. So this isn't exactly how much money KI made last year for the first through third quarter, but it is a very good guesstimation of how much they made. So, and then the margin is literally just this number divided by the revenue. So it's kind of a good signifier for like how well is this company able to operate and how much how much can they earn, without having to dip too much into their cost. And for this MGI group, it's 21% is retained, and for Kingsisle, we got shifted up again, and then for Kingsisle, it's 66%. So this is actually really high. It means that they really only spent about 6 million euros in operating costs and everything, which that's quite shocking actually. And then the pro forma 2 is just taking these two things and combining them. So and because of rounding as well, they may not actually add up to each other. But basically after this, if this MGI group in theory acquired Kingsisle last year from January until September, they would have had an improved margin of 7% because it would have gone from 21 to 28%. So basically, in simplified terms, Kingsisle is going to make them more money, and it's going to help increase their margin that they're actually earning out of the company. So because of this because of these earnings, I guess I should say, or the earning margin, it would make sense that there is a second part to the deal that's a little more sweet for Kingsisle, and that is the second part here. So basically, if Kingsisle is able to sell a lot, right, continue to make money, then they are going to get more money, up to 84 million euros, which is this number 12, the adjusted number here, multiplied by a factor of 7, I believe, right? Just doing mental math. Yeah, 7. So it is the number that we got here multiplied by 84 million euros. So Kingsisle has a possibility of getting paid out another 84 million if the company continues to perform well, which again makes sense because the whole point of this acquisition is to increase the portfolio and earnings of this company, MGI. So it only makes sense that, if Kingsisle brings in the money that they want, they're going to reward them with more money. So anyway, moving now into talking about this company, MGI. Basically, if you take a look at their stock data, and by the way, if you want to look up this, they are known as M8G. That's how you're going to find their stocks. So the code, like I said, the code to use is M8G. And if we look at the last year of their performance, they've gone from being roughly worth around €1 to, in more recent times, being worth around 2.5 to 2.6. Very, very recently, though, they have, very recently, they did take a dip around mid-December. They kind of climbed back up again. And it appears that things are going back down temporarily. We would kind of expect to see an increase of this, though, with the announcement of acquiring Kingsisle. So this video isn't this video isn't about telling you like to invest in Media and Games Invest PLC. But I actually probably will buy some stocks of this. I mean, these are kind of like penny stocks, to be honest. But like, I think that the only reason I want to bring this up is because it seems like this company, whoever this Media and Games Invest PLC is, they do know what they're doing, right? They're on an uptrend. And we have seen too, because they have an official website, obviously, and they do own a lot of other MMORPGs. So Wiz isn't like the first time they've ever delved into an MMORPG. And I can only assume, I don't know, but I can only assume they're going to have more of a hands-off approach when it comes to Wizard101, because the team behind that is already a well-oiled machine. There really isn't any logical reason for them to interfere that much with it. But something big to note is that this Media and Games Invest PLC, most of their MMORPGs are a true free-to-play experience. Okay, Wiz is not. Wiz is like the furthest thing from a free-to-play experience that I can think of. So this is where we get into the final part of the video, which is going to be my predictions, my assumptions, and everything that I think is going to come for the future of Wiz based on this deal. So, assuming Wizard101 meets their earning margins and gets everything that they're supposed to, they can make a grand total of 210 million euros out of this deal. That's huge. That is a huge thing for Kingsisle, because that is going to give them the money and resources that they need to invest in a better game. Honestly, I think that this is one of the best things that has ever happened to Wizard101. Seriously, for the longevity of the game, for our sanity, for everything, I think that this was a very, very good merger. I mean, sure, it might be a little rocky at first, because we don't really know. Again, no one knows so far. I mean, probably the people at Kingsisle do, but we don't really know how invested Media Games and Invest is actually going to be in Wizard101, and like how much of a say they actually want to have in how the game gets run. I can only assume, based on, again, all their other games, that they're probably going to encourage Wizard101 to kind of jump on the free-to-play train, because they need them to fall in line with their other games. And I think that Wizard101 would be wildly more successful if it was free-to-play. I think one of the big issues right now is that it's not free-to-play. And, it's pretty difficult to convince people to play an MMORPG from 2008 that, besides Wizard City, has very outdated graphics, outdated mechanics, outdated UI, super outdated website. It's kind of hard to convince someone to give you $10 every month. Us fans do. We do every month, but for a new player, for fresh user, can't really see that happening. Even for returning users, it's pretty hard to get them back in the loop again, back into the paying loop. So I think that this is only going to result in positive changes to the game in terms of free-to-play and stuff. My hope, though, is that with all the money that they're getting, they're going to be able to put more resources into doing a graphical revamp on all the older worlds, not just Wizard City. I would hope that they can get more content out faster, and they could have more people dedicated to doing some of the more niche things in the game. I mean, PvP isn't niche, but, technically speaking, it is kind of a niche side thing that you can do in the game. So I would hope that there is more people for a dedicated PvP team, more people for a dedicated, quality of life team, or whatever, just people looking to improve the user experience of the game, I guess is a better way to put it. I mean, just in general, I would hope that we would get, or they would get rather, more resources to actually do those things with. So hopefully I broke this down in a way that makes sense. Again, the big takeaways from this is that Wizard101 is getting a big payout right now, and a possibly other large payout depending on how they do with their earnings. And yeah, they're being fully acquired. So hopefully that means that we're going to get a lot of positive changes in the game. Hopefully it's going to go in a truly free-to-play direction. But again, only time will tell. If you guys enjoyed the video today, make sure to let me know. And of course, let me know your thoughts on the merger. I want to know if you guys are into it or not into it, or scared or excited or whatever, right? So yeah, that's all I've got for today though. I'll see you guys in the next one. Rose up out. Peace.